Okay, so now we're going to shift from building the global infrastructure um, from India to actually focusing on a particular organization. I'm very pleased to welcome Prasanna Lohar. He's the head of a number of things: digital innovation, architecture at DCB Bank. And Prasanna, we just heard about the development of infrastructure and um, across organizations. And now I'm very pleased, keen to learn from you about how to build an API platform uh, that is for an organization that is both innovative and resilient. We'll just check. I can see your slides perfectly. Over to you.
Yeah, just a second.
You're okay?
Yeah, I'm just looking at where is my screen.
We can see your
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
when you present, it may be
Wonderful,
hiding
wonderful.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah, just a second. Okay, so thank you so much, John, and the team for inviting me here to talk on this topic. Right, I chosen this topic as a sustainability through API technologies. So furthermore, I'll talk about how APIs are really changing the way customers are demanding they ever changing their behavior and the needs from typically from banks and governments and the healthcares and so on and so forth. And while we are moving around from 2022, which is around Web 2 kind of a world, and Web 3, the demand will be furthermore exciting. And as a bank, as a government, and as a service provider, we need to be ready for the customer demand. And I think API plays a major role out here, right? So we'll talk about what's happening in India, outside of India, how India is equipped with a lot of API platforms and the ecosystem, how banks and the governments are taking advantage of that, what should be the best practices to adopt that, and what all innovations certainly we are doing it around it. So here you go. I think that's all about me. I work in the DCB Bank for heading the digital and innovation the architecture. So furthermore, I think friends, every 20 years something or other comes in our life, right? You talk about smartphones in 2008 with Android and iOS, or you talk about the internet came into our life in 93, 95. Every further 20 years you will see a lot of things are coming, and it changes the way we operate, the way we talk, the way we do data transfer, the way we communicate, and so on and so forth. And but what remains in the behind is innovation, the collaboration with the right technology partner, right? So that's a crux about the whole presentation: technology, innovation, the collaboration. These three pillars are ever helping everybody out here in this world. While world has surpassed this COVID-19 impact, right, since last couple of years, a lot of new expectations are coming into our life. Why? Because there were a lot of impact, right? So impact on the governments, bank system has collapsed, complete supply chain has collapsed, and one thing has collapsed has impacted something else. If you look at this slide, like financial sector is collapsed, eventually impact government, businesses, right? So complete supply chain and the demand supply and overall global economy. And this is a challenge currently every country is facing, right? So we'll talk about how this challenge can be surpassed with the help of APIs and the various other technologies with the better innovations, with the right architecture, and so on and so forth. So let's talk about India story as a first segment, right? So wherein Indian economy will take 15 years overcome. That's what India's RBI, which is Reserve Bank of India, has said. That's the challenge in front. Can you just imagine what we had looked for in 2018, and today after a few to 4 years, RBI says that it will take 15 plus years to mitigate those losses which had occurred because of pandemic. Furthermore, our economy, right, rupee is going weaker, right? So how do we really surpass all of these challenges? So while we are talking about this, last year our prime minister has announced Atmanirbhar Bharat, which is typically around build your own sustainable ecosystem. Although we have already UIDI, Aadhaar, or UPI, or there furthermore what we are bringing as a part of India, right? So how do we leverage on the existing ecosystem to build more and more digitalization, right? If you see the recent budget, which was around 2022 February, our financial minister Sitaraman ji has advised, rather narrated so many aspect around these technical budgets. Furthermore, if you drill down that whole budget, it was all around digital technology adoption, right? Bringing on a central bank digital currency in form of digital rupee, or 5G is coming up, or drones are coming. How do we be ready for that, right? Or how startup can really leverage on the various incentives which government of India does it in form of a Make in India, Startup India, and Invest India, right? So there are a lot of things are coming up in form of startups. A lot of innovations are being looked at through corporate innovations and existing railroads like a GEM or UPI, Aadhaar. UPI is making news every month by huge digital adoption out there happening, right? As well as there are a lot of things that are happening considering research investment compared to other countries, we are not doing much. So I think if you really surpass and study this budget 2022 highlights, you will see India is looking forward to become one of those top power economy in the furthermore. Although there are a lot of challenges which we spoke, right? So which we spoke about these challenges like RPI, what said, or economy. So I think, in my view, if you really have a better idea how do we utilize the technology to a lot of government businesses, banking businesses, along with the many other technologies. If you look at the way India is adopting all these technologies, IoTs or AI, blockchain, nano, genomics, all these technologies are coming in our life, right? And if you really look at some of those technologies are already becoming a normal technologies. Right? Say example, AI or a big data, or you talk about a biometric, or next 2 3 years you will have a rise of 5G and the Internet of Things. So it's a combination of all these technologies. When it will come to in front of a customer, customer will demand more. Customer will demand more the services from healthcare, governments, or banks. So that is why power of API comes into picture, which will always connect your front end mobile apps or IoTs with the backend service providers, right? So that's all about, right? So as a form of this Atmanirbhar Bharat and budget announcement, RBI has already begun their work for the 75 digital banking units where API banking will come into the picture. Or furthermore, apart from banking, the other units are also now bringing a lot of new innovations. In say example, India has already approved for Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission, right? So ABDM mission, right? So where it will bring on a lot of innovations around a health ecosystem also. So that's the Indian story where a lot of things are happening, and we are looking at how do we create a sustainable economy for furthermore years, right? While we are working as in India, globally we are ahead of this global challenge, 17 sustainable goals. And if you look at some of those goals like financial inclusion, how can we really bring that to financial access to every citizen out there in India or every citizen out there in the world, right? So people say that there are more than 2 billion people don't have a bank accounts, or they might be earning $1 2 a day. How can we create a better financial ecosystem while we are sitting on so many mobile apps, so many super apps globally? Why this is not being reached out, right? So how it can be reached out with the feature phones? Recently, NPCI has announced very good innovations, which is built on a UPI API kind of ecosystem. Apart from banking, there are other challenges, right? How can we improve the poverty, or how can we have a better health? After pandemic, everybody look at how health sector can be reached out to the every citizen out there in the world. There are many more things can be calibrated in economic pillars or environmental pillars or social pillars. And what World Economic Forum says, if you utilize AI, blockchain, and API banking along with IoT, I think by 2030 we'll be able to mitigate most of the 17 sustainable goals. And as per 2021 reports, what we have seen at India, although these are Finland, Sweden, Denmark, they are making the noise around the first top 10, including, just imagine, a country like Estonia is also there. But India is at 120, right? So apart from those 165 countries, we have to do a lot. And if you look at overall restructuring or overall marking in detail, India has to do a lot of things on financial inclusion or health side. So I think these all these rates are to be major challenges. Even after 7 years being announced 17 sustainable goals, we have to do a lot around many areas. And we need to see how these technologies we spoke, right, can be really adopted at a country level, so that this global challenge, like having not having Aadhaar like identity the way India have, right? Many people, 3.2 billion people don't have a Aadhaar identity, right? So, or 1 billion people are estimated to lack legalized recognized identity. Because why identity is required, it always give a incentivization for a government services and many other services given by the health sector or a banking ecosystem, right? So who are all unbanked? Many people are unbanked. We are blessed sitting in a country like India, but there are almost 2 billion people earn or don't have a bank account, right? So we have to create that kind of a financial ecosystem for most of the people who are unbanked, right? So that's a call for all countries. How do we do that, right? That's a call for all countries to showcase the commitment and bring on those technologies which can really create a very good sustainable business model for the whole world, right? So coming back to the India story, India is already sitting on a very good stack, so called as the India stack, wherein a presence layer, paperless, and cash layer are already into production, and the consent layer is in form of a account aggregator is going to come up, right? So and if you look at in detail how presence, paperless, and cashless layers are helping us, right? So if you just look at how much impact we have done with Aadhaar, right? Every business model giving a SIM card, bank account opening, as if we cannot live without Aadhaar APIs now. So Aadhaar has a two types of API authentication and the KYC, which is being utilized by most of the rather all banks. It is mandated by RBI to all the banks to be utilized. Moreover, paperless layer like DigiLocker, eSign, eKYC utilized. Cashless layer is making noise in form of a UPI and AAPS. And digital transactions have surpassed all the physical transactions in India like country, right? So I think that's the India stack story, and you can see that how it has really helped SIM card activation, bank account opening, pension, social services, and furthermore you will have many more use cases further down the line when we will see your machines will be doing transaction. Now this is all happening in India because we are blessed with a very good regulators. Talk about RBI, SEBI, IRDA, right? PFRDA, TRI, right? Who has done a lot of innovations around sustenance, the SMS banking or SMSs are filtered out on the blockchain. RBI keeps on giving RBI fintech unit is looking forward how they can really create a digital rupee or CBDC. They keep on doing a lot of hackathons for fintechs, cohort like SME banking, cross border. SEBI is now part of account aggregator. They look at how account aggregator can be furthermore incentivized. IFSC is a unilateral regulator bringing a lot of Web3 kind of a ecosystem in India. So I think we are blessed with the good regulators who are innovating furthermore the way we do banking and so on. So now furthermore, if you see there are more ecosystems are built in the last 5 6 years. GSTN or you talk about Arogya City during the last 2 years, we have collected the data of many citizens, wherein you can utilize this data for a better health index, right? So, which is a part of SDGs. Bharat bill payment, which has considered all the bill payments. There are a lot of innovations that happens by SIDBI or NESL to bring on very good platforms for SME lending, right? Which is a primarily left out area. So while we are in this journey, the two ecosystems on a financial side, which is account aggregator, and on the health side, national health stack is going to come and really help citizens out there to mitigate losses. The way we do a lot of paperwork, lot of operations, and it can be mitigated. And as a country, we will have a better adoption or a better GDP control with this kind of ecosystem. So it is a high time for everybody out there, right? So or this regulator to adopt account aggregator sooner or the later. The way UPI has done magic for a payments, account aggregator can it done it for a digital lending, and there are furthermore instruments can be added like savings, current, and many more accounts, right? Uh, Open credit enabled network, which is another network which is coming up with form of the APIs, right? It's a new paradigm to facilitate credit flow, right? So it is combination of your digi locker and Aadhaar and so on and so forth. We'll have to see how the processes, right? The process we have in the bank, right? Which is a full of operations and full of a lot of a cost, right? So it can be really incentivized through these kind of innovations out there. So and why it is happening, right? So what we spoke about UPI, Aadhaar, why it is happening? Because customer is changing. Customer, there are different types of generations, and every generation and every technology comes teaches a lot to the I'm not sure like in next 10 years how many bank branches will be there, right? And how many bank branches will really do a paper kind of exercises. So while we enter the generation of a millennials and Gen 20, we need to really see how this API ecosystem can be nurtured on those apps or on those IoT devices will be utilized by those millennials. Similarly, if you look at a recent report, right, April 22, uh, 4 point, right, almost 63%, right, internet users are there out of our population, almost 60%. And if you see adoption of the 5 billion internet users are there, so I think internet will become commodity. So what does it mean? You have to provide every other service on this foundational technology, so called internet. And moreover, the way consumer is changing, more and more seamless banking is coming to our picture. Say example, customer entering, right, this journey from not digital to the extreme digital, customer entering the bank branch, and as a branch manager I'll come to know who has really entered, right, and based upon the data which is available for that customer, financial data, I can do sell some of those cross product, right, I can help him to create a better sustainable financial health, right. It can happen with the help of AI, computer vision based cameras, who will gauge the facial expression whether customer is happy or not happy. So that is how our banking or our systems are going from a paper based system to the adaptive digital to basic to the extreme digital. So while we go there, I think automatically we will save lot many things as a part of banking, right. So already our branch banking is coming out of the mobile banking, or our the way we are changing our communications, right. Earlier it was a day of keyboards or mouse, slowly it is coming on to the Alexas and series like touch and the swipe and talk, and tomorrow it will be a just like a holograms or metaverse. And I think that will give incentivization of providing banking service to the various channels or individual channels. That is why it is very very important in the back end for every bank to be ready with the relevant API structure, right. So while we talk about so many things are happening at India level, there are challenges. So what is in the API out there, right? So I think look at this application, right? Our life, if you have an Android phone, and if you are utilizing Google Maps or not, you can't imagine our life without Google Maps, which is a service, which is an API provider with the maps, right? It does give require to search any of those point of interest, so-called branch or nearby entertainment store or anything you want to search around Google Maps. So I think that is how you can look at how Ola and Uber really utilize these platforms into their apps. Moreover, banks are now onboarding these platforms like Ola, Uber into their mobile banking apps. That is attraction all about how do we create a better and better part API economy, where banking application can consume APIs like Google's and many others, and banking apps can become tomorrow's super apps to provide not only banking but also non-banking services to the customers. I think gone was the era where we had PCs and laptops. I think that's a past, and we need to really see how we can really adopt API banking the best way. So best way to adopt the way we have created API banking out here. We identify all the systems who are not having APIs. So any futurist system you will build, it should have APIs. So journey for India's APIs ecosystem, they are there, right? Like GST, eKYC or DigiLocker. But if you have to connect to this, you also should have APIs out there in your local banking ecosystem. So it makes sense, while you are collaborating with the fintechs, you should have APIs coming in from core banking and so on. So this was the structure before API building or before enterprise service building for us. Very messy, time consuming, unmanageable, right? And point to point connection, which was revised like this. So implementation of an enterprise services is a must for every company out there in India. Banking, it's always must. Still, I think 50 to 60% banks still not have a ESB kind of ecosystem. So it's a high time for every type of bank who has not adopt right tools, do a right study and adopt these things. At a DC Bank, it took almost 17 to 18 months, right? Which was started with awareness. So if you are not having API or ESB, you have to create awareness stage, evaluate platforms like IBMs and IPCOs, create a governance model. Cybersecurity is very important. Create a API platform which can be really helpful for fintechs to onboard their apps on top of you, right? So that's how it took 18 months. Today I think it is really it will take lesser time because technology is improved, partners and integration partners also improved their ways, right? So I think new wave is coming in form of a banking as a service. So these are those companies who create their API structure the way. Say example, ABC Bank, XYZ Bank has some APIs. So these partners consume these APIs and onboard fintechs for those banks. So all the overhead of onboarding any fintechs will be taken care of these kind of a platforms. It makes sense for every bank to partner with the BaaS kind of a services, as well as it's very important for a fintech to look at who are those BaaS services are already available, right? So for every bank, very very important which all domain, say example, which all use case repository they will build, say example fixed deposit or a savings account or lending, or that is how they have to create a right documentation, right regulatory view, and be ready for any of those API economy based platform or a fintech integration. These are some of those best practices which is around regulation, technology, cyber security, and so on and so forth. Having a right internal regulatory sandbox or having a right regulatory sandbox at India level or country level is very very important. I think we should learn from Singapore and some of those countries. While IFCA has recently announced a fintech policy and a regulatory sandbox for Indian fintechs also, right? Uh, so furthermore, it's not only API will take care, right? It's a combination of API and other technologies has to work cohesively. So API will always talk to the artificial intelligence, big data, OCR while onboarding data, or tomorrow's Internet of Things or a blockchain. So if you have to offer any of the services to your consumer, it is not API platform, but my dear friends, you have to onboard every other platform or every other technology the way it is depicted in
Mm.
in this slide, along with better digital identity, so-called Aadhaar in Indian context, and adopt cloud. Yeah,
Prasanna, Prasanna,
yeah,
I'm very impressed. I had thought, okay, you're going to talk about one bank, but you've taken a very outside in view. You looked at the external environment, the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and then brought it back to the banking architecture. If I can just um, make a couple of notes though. I think technology, as technologists, we have a real challenge. Is that there is the opportunity to contribute towards the UN's Sustainable Development Goals, and finance is a certain part of that. Access to the financial system helps bring people out of poverty. The digitizing of industries and supply chains helps to drive efficiencies in industry that also um, promotes economic growth and brings people out of poverty. But I think we also have some challenges in that sometimes we use too much energy. We some of our technologies are sort of double-edged swords, aren't they?
yeah,
In
yeah.
terms of we they may drive some efficiency somewhere, but then we tend to use more resources somewhere else as a result of that surplus that we've created. So and I also saw a comment in the chat here. Thanks, Durga Prasad. We should be leaders in driving standards for APIs across industries, domains, and building ecosystems. So I guess as a sort of a parting note to the audience, what would be your sort of call to action for us as technologists to help to contribute towards sustainable development?
Yeah, I think the exercise of sustainable development goals followed by the pandemic has really taught world that we should work together. See, for example, at India level, we might have a Aadhaar stack or a UPI stack or a account aggregator which is coming up, and that is creating a lot of standardization around how do we really integrate those things to the fintechs, and every bank and every company is having their own strategies and whole their own best practices to adapt this API economy. It makes sense to really see a larger goal, right? Say example on the way we have a sustainable development goal kind of a challenge. And if you look at the financial inclusion sector out there, right? So it starts with the customer onboarding and followed by the customer engagement. If you really look at the current banking ecosystem, onboarding takes a lot of time. Onboarding takes a lot of time. Say example, this slide which talks about if I do a customer onboarding with a DCB bank out there, and hell lot of the KYCs which I utilize. Say example, PAN and DigiLocker and all those KYC documents are collected at once. It can be reutilized by all the other actors, other banks or insurance company if the whole ecosystem on the
Hmm.
blockchain. So it's a high time for world or rather at a country level to see how regulators will talk to each other and collaborate with each other. Same KYC can be reutilized to create a better accounts, not only for a banking but also wealth, or you talk about insurance and so on and so forth, or even telecom.
Mm.
How this given adoption for a better financial inclusion, because then at a country level you don't have to really reinvest again and again. You can
Mm.
incentivize your innovation in that area. How do we create a better adoption with the help of a blockchain? What Bitcoin teaches us, it can really operate without reconciliation settlement the way we have done our
Mm.
payment ecosystem. It
Yeah.
will take its own time. Lot of innovation, lot of collaboration is required, mindset mapping is required, wherein what we have created APIs in our house at our country,
Mm.
it can go to the next level. Say example, it's very
Yeah.
great to see that NPCI is adopting UPI to the UAEs and Singapore and so on.
Mm. Yeah.
Tomorrow we are embarking our next journey, which is on a central bank digital currency, where at least
Yeah.
100 plus banks are doing their internal
Mm.
innovation. So it makes sense for IMF
Yeah.
or a BIS to come together and create a standards around how two countries as a part of a wholesale CBDC they can implement, so that more and more
Yeah.
standardization and API optimization can happen, so that CBDC exercise which remains at my country can
Okay.
really leverage on interoperability. And
Mm.
tomorrow's what we are spending too much on cross-border payment, at least that
Yeah.
area can be incentivized with a
Yeah.
lot of
Cool.
cost
Thanks.
cutting, resource saving. Yeah, so that could be the one way to
Thanks.
look at
Thanks very much.
yeah.
Thanks very much,
Yeah, yeah.
Prasanna. A lot to think about, and a lot to inspire us to provide solutions, not just for our company that we work for, but for the greater good in India and beyond. Thanks very much.